Democratic strategist Liz Smith went on MSNBC, and she demonstrated exactly what the problem is with establishment Democrats.
Liz, what's your reaction? Democrats are universally angry. We've seen all these marches. But just last week, Tom Perez sitting next to Bernie Sanders, and Bernie saying, nope, I'm not a Democrat.
Yeah, and not only that, one thing that was sort of troubling to me was on Friday, we saw Tom Perez come out and say, we will only support candidates who are pro-choice. And look, I am a very pro-choice woman, but I've also worked in a lot of red states, West Virginia, Kentucky, South Dakota, Missouri. I could rattle off a list. And the crux of a 50-state strategy is trusting the grassroots of the party and local leadership in these parties to pick the best leaders for their areas. And they're not always going to agree with people like me who are from New York City. And my concern is that if we impose these purity tests, that we will purify ourselves into irrelevance, and we will purify our party to the point where we can only win elections in states that touch salt water.
That's already the case. You're already irrelevant. Donald Trump is president of the United States and beat your beloved Hillary Clinton, who you thought would cakewalk into the White House. Donald Trump is president. The Republicans control the Senate, the House of Representatives, most state legislatures, and most governorships. You'd be lucky if there were more Democratic dog catchers around right now. And how did we get to this point? We got to this point by listening to people like you, who said, oh no, what we have to do is not have any purity tests at all and not stand for anything and be such a big tent party that we allow in Wall Street and we allow in Republicans. We want to be Republican light, and that's the path to victory. But we've used your model from the 1980s and onward, and the Democrats are utterly obliterated. So you're not good at this thing called logic. You're not good at being objective. You're not good at looking at empirical evidence. All you're doing is you're stuck in that DC bubble and you're going, what is my gut reaction to what's happening here? Well, you're told and you think, and everybody around you agrees, well, never go in a progressive direction. That's deeply unpopular. So the answer is always run further to the right. Become more corporatist, more pro-Wall Street, more conservative on various issues, and then we'll win. But you've already used that model and you've been destroyed. You couldn't get a more corporate-friendly, Wall Street-friendly, right-wing Democrat than Hillary Clinton. What? The only person you could go beyond that is Joe Manchin. We want to run Joe Manchin and see how that works? I say that, but then these people would say, yeah, let's do that. Well, Joe Manchin's elected in West Virginia, so of course, then we should go in that direction, right? Because he won in West Virginia. And he's about to get wiped the fuck out. These Democrats don't get it. The path to winning is not to be Republican light. The path to winning is being a progressive. Be a progressive. Be a liberal. Be what a Democrat is supposed to be. They're so substanceless and vacuous. Now, understand something. You want to talk, so are there some issues where there's a range of acceptable opinions and you don't have to be rigid in this so-called purity test that you apply? Sure. Is there a range of reasonable disagreement when you come to the issue of abortion? Yes. Now, we shouldn't run any candidates that are just flatly pro-life from, the second you're done having sex, there's a third person in the room and a zygote or an embryo or a gamete is equal to a person. No, we don't want those people there. Now, can you have people pro-choice but varying degrees? Yes, you can absolutely have that. Can you have people who disagree as to what the exact, marginal tax rate should be? Yes. Can you have people who have slightly varying opinions on immigration? Yes. You shouldn't have anybody run as a Democrat who just wants to flat out stop all immigration and, hey, let's ban all Muslims like Trump. And so, no, you don't want anybody extreme, but is there a range of opinions that's acceptable on certain issues? Guns, for example. Is there a range of opinions that's acceptable among Democrats? Yes, there is and there should be. But you're missing the forest through the trees. There are many issues where there's a range of reasonable opinions among Democrats. But there are many issues where it shouldn't be the case, and there is one answer, and there should be a purity test. Because your lack of a purity test has brought you to where you are right now. Utter decimation and irrelevance. You lost to fucking Donald Trump. How many times do I have to say that? That alone should have proven to you, oh, we're at bottom. This is rock bottom. It doesn't get any lower than this. So what is not negotiable? Medicare for all, not negotiable. Not negotiable. Every other modern nation has one version or another of a single-payer system. We're the only modern nation that doesn't. 45,000 people die every year because they don't have access to basic health care. There's millions upon millions of uninsured people in the country. That's crazy. That's not a problem in other countries. Medical bills is one of the top causes of bankruptcy. Again, that's not a problem in other countries. That's a uniquely American problem. Other modern nations have surpassed us on this issue by far and away. So there's one, not negotiable. If you're not for Medicare for all, get the fuck out of the party. We're not interested in you. What else is not negotiable? Taking corporate money. Taking PAC money. If you take corporate money, if you take PAC money, if you genuflect at the altar of the powerful billionaires and elitists, get the fuck out of the party. You're the reason that the Democrats lost. You can't take corporate money, can't take Wall Street money, can't take PAC money, can't take billionaire money. If you do that, you shouldn't be in the fucking party. Why? Because guess what? If you take that money, you're a sellout, by definition. Because it's human nature. You take money from those interests, what's going to happen? You're going to do favors for them. You're going to do their bidding. And in the process of doing that, you're snubbing the needs of your constituents. You're not actually functioning in a democratic system, democratically representing the people. You're representing your donors. So that's a non-negotiable. You take corporate money, get the fuck out. By the way, how many congressional Democrats don't take PAC money right now? 6. Only 6. Your lack of a purity test is the problem. Medicare for all is non-negotiable. Corruption, money in politics, non-negotiable. You only raise from small money donors, from regular people, and then you fight to get money out of the system. If you don't want to fight to get money out of the system, get the fuck out of the party. Non-negotiable. Non-negotiable. What else is non-negotiable? Minimum wage, a living wage. Non-negotiable. Non-negotiable. You can't be in the Democratic Party and say, yeah, we think people should work a full-time job and not make enough money to survive. Because that is so preposterous, so ridiculous, so outside of the realm of duh, that if you're not on that page, shut the fuck up and get the fuck out of the party. Not interested in you. Not interested. There are so many issues where Americans don't even know how screwed you are. Like, you're getting so screwed, you have no idea. Slovenia has free college. We don't have free college. We can't have free college, but Slovenia has free college. We can spend $7 trillion in Iraq, but we can't do free college. There's another issue, non-negotiable. You're not in favor of free college? Get the fuck out. Get out. If you're not in favor of a non-interventionist foreign policy, if you can't sit down at the table right now and say, unequivocally, we should not go into Syria. We're not going to make the same mistake we made in Iraq again. We're not going to do any more of these regime change wars. If you can't say that, get the fuck out of the Democratic Party. Because what the fuck you have to stand for something. The Republicans, the neocons, what are they? Yeah, let's invade everywhere and topple everybody. And isn't that great? Yeah, we're going to run the world. We're going to be the world police. It's going to be tremendous. We care about human rights and democracy and freedom. Anyway, can we give Saudi Arabia more money and more chemical weapons for them to slaughter children in Yemen? They're a joke and they are fully interventionist. Your answer should not be milquetoast interventionism that's slightly less egregious and numerous than the Republicans, like Obama. Oh my God. President Bush was so bad, he did full-scale invasions in Afghanistan and Iraq. I'm only in favor of the full-scale invasion of Afghanistan, and outside of that, I just want to do like drone strikes in 7 different countries. That is not an opposition party. That is an agreement party. That is the elite class versus the people. Meanwhile, you look at the polls, the American people across the board say, yeah, no, we don't want to be involved in these wars. So you need to actually represent the people, that radical idea. When you look at progressive values, the American people agree with them and believe in them, but the Democrats aren't representing them. But your dumbass idea is we should go further to the right. We shouldn't have a purity test. Your lack of a purity test was the fucking problem. Now, again, are there some issues where there's a range of reasonable opinions? Yes, of course. But are there some issues that are non-negotiable? Yes. But they don't want to have any non-negotiable issues because they want to run candidates who take that sweet, sweet corporate cash. And that's the first issue that's non-negotiable, but they want to negotiate it. Oh, yeah, they all have to take their corporate cash because we need the money to defeat the Republicans. That's how they think. you're never going to outraise the party that is fundamentally built on corruption. They're just a front for corporate America. And you think, well, what do you mean? We need to take, like Barney Frank says, well, what, would you rather them take all the money from corporations and Wall Street? And we only, what do you want us to take, like 50%, 80%? I mean, we have to take something, right? No, then you're setting up a system where you permanently lose because you're always taking less than them. And the answer is not to take more than them, because then you're even bigger sellouts than them. The answer is to call out how wrong that is and the incentive structure problem and how they're the biggest sellouts ever. And you say, we don't take any corporate money. We're a party of the people. So we have the people on our side. They have corporate cash on their side and Wall Street on their side. They're a house of cards because they don't have grassroots support. And you crush them in the next election and you get a progressive agenda implemented. But they can't stop with that fucking drip. Oh, yeah, give me that sweet Wall Street money. Oh, yeah, I get so high off this. Well, we're going to get the Wall Street junkies, the Wall Street corporate PAC addicts out of our party. And that's the only path to victory. Bernie Sanders is the most popular politician in the country. That's literal. Most popular politician in the country. He's showing you the path. He's even popular in deep red states. And your answer is, yeah, we should run people who are nothing like Bernie Sanders. Well, then prepare to keep losing. These are the idiot Democratic strategists in Washington. This is how they think. They're the virus. They're the cancer. They're the problem. They will lead to perpetual losses, as has already been proven. The answer is justicedemocrats.com. Go sign your name in support of the movement. We need you.